This road sign means A. One-way road. B. No right turn. C. Exit. D. Sharp right turn in the road ahead. D. Sharp right turn in the road ahead. This sign indicates that there is a sharp right turn ahead. This sign means A. School ahead. B. School crossing. C. Pedestrian crossing. D. Construction workers on or near the roadway. C. Pedestrian crossing. Warning signs are usually diamond-shaped with black markings on a yellow background. They alert drivers to upcoming hazards. This sign indicates that there may be pedestrians crossing the road ahead. Distracted driving may be caused by A. Eating, drinking, or smoking. B. Talking or texting on a cellular phone. C. Changing a radio station or CD. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. It is estimated that drivers make 200 decisions for every mile traveled, making it vital that drivers focus their full attention on the task of driving. Performing any additional task can create a dangerous distraction. Which of the following is true? A. Drivers under the age of 18 are not allowed to text or talk on a cell phone while driving. B. Drivers age 18 and older must use a hands-free accessory when talking on a cell phone while driving. C. Drivers age 18 and older are not allowed to text while driving. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. In Oregon, it is illegal for drivers under 18 years of age to talk or text on a cell phone or other communication device while operating a vehicle. Drivers age 18 and older must use a hands-free device if they are using a cell phone or other communication device.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
You are approaching an intersection when the traffic light changes from green to solid yellow. You should A. Consider it the same as a caution sign and continue through the intersection. B. Stop immediately. C. Stop before entering the intersection, unless you are too close to stop safely. D. Speed up to get through the intersection before the red light appears. C. Stop before entering the intersection, unless you are too close to stop safely. When approaching an intersection with a solid yellow traffic light, slow to a stop before entering the intersection, if it is safe to do so. If you can't stop safely, drive carefully through the intersection. Smoking and preparing to smoke while driving. A. Do not affect driving abilities. B. Help maintain driver alertness. C. Are distracting activities. D. Are not distracting activities. C. Are distracting activities. Smoking while driving can create dangerous distractions by causing you to take your hands off the wheel and/or your eyes off the road. On a road which has no sidewalks, a pedestrian should walk on the A. Side of the road which has the lightest traffic. B. Same side of the road on which traffic is moving. C. Side of the road facing oncoming traffic. D. Side of the road which has the heaviest traffic. C. Side of the road facing oncoming traffic. Pedestrians should walk on the side of the road facing the traffic in the lane nearest them. Who must yield when a driver is turning and a pedestrian is crossing without a traffic light? A. Whoever started moving last. B. The driver. C. Whoever is slower. D. The pedestrian. B. The driver. Drivers must yield to pedestrians when they are crossing at any intersection without a traffic light, whether or not there is a crosswalk. When approaching an accident scene, you should A. Keep your attention on your driving. B. Keep moving. C. Stop if you are involved or if emergency help has not yet arrived. D. All of the above. Drivers who eat and drink while driving. A. Make no driving errors. B. Have trouble driving slowly. C. Are better drivers because they are not hungry. D. Have trouble controlling their vehicles. D. Have trouble controlling their vehicles. Choosing to eat, drink, or smoke while driving is dangerous because these actions require a driver to remove their hands from the wheel and their eyes from the road. Drivers who engage in distracting activities while driving have trouble staying in their lanes and controlling their vehicles. What is the meaning of this sign? A. The traffic signal ahead is displaying a red light. B. The traffic signal ahead is broken. C. The traffic signal ahead is displaying a green light. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. This sign indicates that there is a traffic signal at the intersection ahead. You are involved in an accident. You should A. Stop immediately. B. Help the injured. C. Call the police. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. If involved in an accident, you should stop your vehicle immediately. If possible, move the vehicle out of the way of traffic. Call the nearest police agency and ask for an ambulance, if necessary. Do not move the injured unnecessarily, but attempt to stop severe bleeding with direct pressure. Wait for emergency vehicles to arrive. If a driver sees an animal on the roadway. A. No special action is required. B. The driver should honk their horn. C. The driver should pass the animal as closely as possible. D. The driver should be very cautious. D. The driver should be very cautious. Be very cautious anytime you encounter an animal on the roadway. Pass the animal slowly to avoid startling or frightening it. This road sign means A. The left lane is reserved for vehicles with a specific number of occupants. B. Specific turning movements are allowed from specific lanes. C. Do not enter. D. Drivers in both lanes are responsible for merging smoothly. A. The left lane is reserved for vehicles with a specific number of occupants. This sign marks a high occupancy vehicle (HOV) lane. HOV lanes are reserved for use by buses and vehicles with a driver and one or more passengers, as indicated on the sign. When changing lanes, you should A. Rely on your mirrors. B. Begin signaling as you move into the next lane. C. Signal at least 500 feet before your lane change when driving on residential streets. D. Always check your blind spot. D. Always check your blind spot. Other cars and motorcycles are often hidden in a vehicle's blind spot, so be sure to glance over your shoulder before you begin a lane change. Begin signaling 100 feet before changing lanes or turning in a residential area. Signal 5 seconds in advance when changing lanes on a freeway. Before switching on the ignition, you should A. Be sure only backseat passengers have buckled their seat belts. B. Be sure only adult passengers have buckled their seat belts. C. Be sure only child passengers have buckled their seat belts. D. Be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seat belts. D. Be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seat belts. Develop a routine for entering and leaving your car. Before switching on the ignition, buckle your safety belt and see that all passengers do likewise. When approaching railroad tracks, you should A. Look, listen, slow down, and be prepared to stop. B. Speed up to cross the tracks before the gate is lowered. C. Try to drive around a lowered gate. D. Not pay attention to how many tracks there are to cross. A. Look, listen, slow down, and be prepared to stop. When approaching railroad tracks, you should look, listen, slow down, and be prepared to stop for trains or other vehicles that may be using the rails. You are approaching a railroad crossing and you do not see or hear a train. You must stop. A. If a stop sign is posted. B. If a crossing gate is lowered. C. If the crossing lights are flashing. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. You must always stop before crossing railroad tracks if flashing red lights are activated, a crossing gate is lowered, a stop sign is posted, a flagger signals you to stop, or a train is visible or so close to the crossing that it would be hazardous to continue driving. If you are unsure if a train is too close for you to safely cross the tracks, stop. Never race a train. The effect that lack of sleep has on your safe driving ability is the same as A. The effect that alcohol has. B. The effect that amphetamines have. C. The effect that anger has. D. The effect that driving with teenagers has. A. The effect that alcohol has. Fatigue and being under the influence of alcohol have similar effects on your ability to drive safely. For example, being awake for 18 hours impairs your driving about as much as a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. Being awake for 24 hours in a row has the same effect on your driving as a blood alcohol level of 0.10%. Which of the following are used on some highways to direct drivers into the proper lanes for turning? A. Flashing red lights. B. Flashing yellow lights. C. White lines on the side of the road. D. White arrows in the middle of the lanes. D. White arrows in the middle of the lanes. Arrows may be used to indicate which lanes should be used for specific purposes, such as driving straight or making a turn. When a traffic signal light turns green, you should A. Yield the right of way to pedestrians. B. Accelerate as quickly as possible. C. Back up slowly. D. Not move until another driver waves you on. A. Yield the right of way to pedestrians. A green light tells you that you can go through the intersection. However, you must first yield the right of way to traffic and pedestrians who are still in the intersection. Lanes of traffic moving in the same direction are divided by Fill in the blank lines. A. Yellow. B. White. C. Red. D. Black. B. White. Solid white lines are used to separate lanes traveling in the same direction as well as to mark the right edge of the road. Broken white lines separate lanes traveling in the same direction and may be crossed to pass. Yellow lines separate lanes of traffic moving in opposite directions. This road sign means A. You must travel at the speed indicated. B. The maximum legal speed on the roadway is 55 miles per hour. C. You must travel through the intersection at the posted speed. D. None of the above. B. The maximum legal speed on the roadway is 55 miles per hour. This is a speed limit sign. It indicates the maximum legal speed that you may drive on the road where it is posted. At times of rain, snow, ice, or other less than ideal conditions, you may have to drive more slowly than the posted limit. Distracted drivers are at a greater risk of a crash when they are using which of the following? A. CD player. B. Radio. C. Cell phone. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Using a cell phone, including a hands-free phone, or any kind of audio device, including a radio or CD player, can be a dangerous distraction and contributes to the risk of a crash. A steady yellow traffic signal means that a fill in the blank light will soon appear. A. Flashing yellow. B. Steady green. C. Steady red. D. Flashing red. C. Steady red. A steady yellow light on a traffic signal indicates that a steady red light will soon appear. When you hear the siren or see the flashing lights of an approaching emergency vehicle, you must A. Slow down until it passes you. B. Drive to the right side of the road and stop. C. Motion for the emergency vehicle to pass you. D. Merge into the right lane and continue driving. B. Drive to the right side of the road and stop. Yield the right-of-way to any approaching emergency vehicle that is using its flashing lights or siren, regardless of its direction of travel. You must immediately drive to the right side of the road and stop until the emergency vehicle has passed. If you are within an intersection, pass through the intersection before coming to a stop on the right side of the road. If you stop at a railroad crossing with more than one track. A. Wait to proceed until you have a clear view of all tracks. B. Stop on the first railroad track and watch for another train. C. Go through as soon as the train passes. D. Go through when one of the tracks is free. A. Wait to proceed until you have a clear view of all tracks. If you are stopped at a railroad crossing with more than one track, do not start moving as soon as a train passes. Wait until you have a clear view down all tracks before you start across. Even where there is only one track, do not start across immediately after a train passes. Check again for another train that may be approaching. If a vehicle using high beams comes toward you, you should look toward. Fill in the blank. Of the road. A. Either side. B. The center. C. The right side. D. The left side. C. The right side. If a vehicle approaching you is using its high beams and fails to dim them, you should glance toward the right side of the road. This will keep you from being blinded by the other vehicle's headlights and will allow you to see well enough to stay on your course until the vehicle passes. When dealing with pedestrians, a driver must A. Make sure the pedestrian is aware of their vehicle. B. Always yield the right of way, even if the pedestrian is in the wrong. C. Yield the right of way only when the pedestrian is legally entitled to it. D. Slow down and sound their horn near a crosswalk. B. Always yield the right of way, even if the pedestrian is in the wrong. You must do everything you can to prevent striking a pedestrian or another vehicle, regardless of the circumstances. It is the driver's basic responsibility to be alert to pedestrians and to yield the right of way to all pedestrians, even if the pedestrian is crossing the street where they should not be. This sign means A. Curve ahead. B. Roadwork ahead. C. Merging traffic. D. No left turn. What may help drivers conserve gasoline? A. Sitting in their driveways with their cars running. B. Accelerating quickly. C. Slowing down gradually. D. Braking abruptly. C. Slowing down gradually. Every time you have to stop quickly, it takes time and fuel to accelerate and get your vehicle back up to the speed of traffic. Drivers who look far ahead of their vehicles can slow down gradually or change lanes to avoid unnecessary braking, leading to better gas mileage. This sign means A. Low clearance. B. Fines double in a work zone. C. No left turn. D. Do not block intersection. A. Low clearance. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign tells drivers that they are approaching an area with low clearance. Under which of the following conditions is a road likely to be most slippery? A. When it is covered with deep, fresh snow. B. When it is icy and the temperature is well below freezing. C. When it is icy and the temperature is near freezing. D. In very cold, dry weather. C. When it is icy and the temperature is near freezing. Roads are likely to be most slippery when they are icy and the temperature is at the freezing point. If you need to stop quickly and your vehicle is not equipped with an anti-lock braking system (ABS), you should A. Hold down the brake pedal. B. Firmly pump your brakes. C. Lightly tap the brakes. D. Release the brake pedal. B. Firmly pump your brakes. Pumping the brakes is generally the best way to stop a car in an emergency. The car will stop quickly and you will also be able to continue steering. Who is most likely to be killed in a work zone crash? A. Bicyclists. B. Workers and flaggers. C. Drivers and passengers. D. Motorcyclists. C. Drivers and passengers. Drivers and passengers are more likely to be killed in a work zone collision than anyone else. Drive carefully anytime you are in a roadwork area.